Fear doesn't show up to stop you. It shows up to test if you're ready. Fear, it's a word that makes most people flinch. It's the invisible wall that stops dreams, delays action, and keeps too many lives stuck in neutral. But what if fear wasn't your enemy? What if fear was actually your guide? The truth is, fear shows up not to stop you, but to stretch you. It only knocks when you're standing at the edge of growth. That pit in your stomach, that racing heartbeat. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're alive. It means something important is about to happen. The problem isn't fear itself. The problem is how we respond to it. Most people wait for fear to disappear before they move. But the most successful people, the ones we admire, move with fear, not without it. They've learned to turn fear into focus, energy, urgency, and power. Fear is not a dead end. It's a doorway, a signal, a teacher. If you understand how to use it, it can take you places you never imagined possible. Today I'm going to show you how to transform fear from something that paralyzes you into something that propels you. Stay with me for the next few minutes as I break down the powerful ways you can use fear to push yourself forward into growth, into action, and into the life you were meant to live. Let's dive in. Number 1, fear wakes you up. Fear is one of life's most honest messengers. It doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It shows up to alert you, shake you, and remind you something important is happening. When fear hits, everything sharpens. Your breathing changes. Your awareness heightens. You're suddenly present, fully awake. And that moment of awareness, uncomfortable as it may be, is where real growth begins. You've probably felt it before. That moment right before you step into something new. A big decision, a tough conversation, an unfamiliar challenge. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind says, what if I mess this up? That's fear, waking you up. It's saying this matters. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a spotlight. It shines on what you care about most. It points to the very things that are connected to your purpose, your passion, your potential. It doesn't come to paralyze you. It comes to prepare you. Think of Rosa Parks. She was afraid of what might happen if she refused to give up her seat. She wasn't fearless. She was aware, but she also understood what was at stake. That moment of fear woke something up in her. And by leaning into that moment, she woke something up in the world. Now ask yourself, what fear is trying to wake you up right now? What part of your life have you been sleepwalking through? Maybe it's your dream you've been avoiding, a goal you've put off, a change you know you need to. When fear shows up, don't pull the covers back over your head. Open your eyes, sit up, pay attention. Because fear is often the first sign that you're finally ready. Ready to grow, ready to step forward, ready to become more than who you've been. Don't wait for fear to go away. Use it as a signal. Let it wake you up to the life that's waiting on the other side of action. Number 2, fear pushes you out of your comfort zone. If growth had a voice, it would probably sound a lot like fear. That nervous flutter in your chest, that hesitation before you speak up, take the leap, or show up differently. That's not weakness. It's the sound of your comfort zone stretching. You see, comfort zones are invisible fences. They feel safe, familiar, predictable, but they're also small, and they shrink every time you choose to stay inside them. Every time you say, not yet, or maybe later, you reinforce the walls that hold you back. Eventually, your dreams outgrow your comfort. That's when fear steps in. Not to scare you, but to shove you forward. Fear appears the moment you brush up against the edge of who you've been and who you're capable of becoming. Look at the story of Thomas Edison. He didn't invent the light bulb on his first try, or his 10th, or his 100th. He tried thousands of times, and each failure could have planted seeds of doubt. He could have feared wasting time, resources, or being laughed at by others. And maybe he did. But fear didn't stop him. It pushed him. He used it as fuel to go further, to figure out what didn't work so he could discover what finally would. That's what separates the doers from the dreamers. The ones who break through don't wait to be fearless. They use fear as a signal that it's time to level up. When you're in your comfort zone, you don't grow muscles. You don't build courage. You don't learn new skills or challenge your thinking. You don't lead. You don't change. You just stay. But the moment you start to stretch, when you try something new, when you risk being seen, when you take a step that could go either way, fear rushes in, not to shut you down, but to ask, are you serious about this? You know what the real cost of comfort is? Regret. Not just missed chances, but missed becoming, missed potential. Staying comfortable costs more than fear ever will. Now here's the truth. Stepping out doesn't mean you have to jump off a cliff. It might mean having that one conversation you've avoided, asking for help, trying something you've never done before, saying yes when you normally say no, or finally saying no when you've always said yes. Fear shows up in those small moments too. But every time you choose action over avoidance, your world gets a little bigger, your confidence gets a little stronger, and your comfort zone, it expands. So how do you move through the fear? One step, that's all it takes. One uncomfortable, uncertain, courageous step, and then another, and another. And what you'll find is this: fear shrinks in motion. The moment you move, the fear starts to lose its grip. It doesn't disappear, but it softens, because action builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. Fear says, stay small, stay safe, but your future is calling from the other side of that. And your job, it's to lean in, to listen, to stretch. You weren't made for a box. You were made for movement. And fear is just the growing pain of stepping into a life that's bigger than the one you've known. So the next time fear whispers, you can't answer back, watch me. Because everyone is outside the walls of comfort. And fear, real, honest fear, is what reminds you that you're close. Number 3, turn fear into urgency. Fear has a way of turning up the volume when you've been living on mute. It doesn't just want your attention, it demands it. But instead of seeing fear as panic, what if you saw it as a powerful push? What if fear was just urgency in disguise, telling you it's time to act? We've all had moments where we felt a dream stirring inside us, an idea that excited us, a goal we couldn't stop thinking about. And yet we delayed. We said later, someday when I'm ready. But here's the problem with waiting for the perfect moment. It never comes. Fear, on the other hand, is perfectly timed. It shows up not to stall you, but to wake you up. And when you understand that, you stop treating fear like a red light and start treating it like a green one. Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, a teenager in Austria with a thick accent, no money, and a dream to make it big in America. He could have waited until he had everything figured out. He could have played it safe. But the fear of staying average, the fear of dying in the same town doing the same thing for the rest of his life, created urgency. That urgency pushed him to take massive action. He left home, moved to a foreign country, chased his vision with everything he had, and the rest is history. That's what fear can do when you don't run from it. It becomes urgency. Urgency is what makes you stop negotiating with your potential. It removes the fluff, the distractions, the stories you tell yourself about. Why now isn't the time? Urgency is clear. It's direct. It says do it now. The most powerful people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who had everything handed to them. They're the ones who felt the pressure and used it to perform. They didn't sit around waiting for the fear to pass. They felt it and decided to move anyway. Let's be honest. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll wait forever. Readiness is a myth. No one really feels ready to risk, to fail, to be judged, or to begin something new. But urgency doesn't care about perfection. It doesn't care about being fully prepared. It just needs you to start. So what's something in your life you've been putting off? Something you say you want, but haven't moved toward. Maybe it's launching that idea, reaching out to someone, leaving something that no longer fits, or finally stepping into who you know you could be. If thinking about it brings a little fear to the surface, good. That's your signal. That's urgency knocking, and it won't knock forever. The truth is, urgency makes you bold. It clears your excuses and sharpens your focus. It makes you do in days what you've been putting off for years. When you turn fear into urgency, you stop waiting and start creating. You don't ask if you're ready, you ask what's next. Fear is not here to hold you back. It's here to push you forward. It's the fire under your feet, the clock that reminds you life is moving. And if you don't move with it, you'll get left behind. So don't resist the urgency. Don't mute the fear. Let it wake you up, push you forward, and ignite the action that changes everything. Number 4. Let fear shape your preparation. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop letting fear control you and start letting it inform you. Fear, when used wisely, can become your greatest coach. It doesn't just highlight what might go wrong, it shows you what you need to get right. It pushes you to prepare better, to study deeper, and to take your next step seriously. Fear can be your edge, your guide, and your silent motivator. Imagine walking into an important moment totally unprepared. That nervous energy, the tightness in your chest, that's fear telling you you could have done more. But now imagine the opposite. Imagine showing up to a challenge with full preparation behind you. Your mind sharp, your body ready, your heart steady. The fear may still be there, but instead of drowning in it, you ride the wave. That's the difference preparation makes. Take Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the only person to ever win it in 2 different scientific fields. Her journey was filled with obstacles, poverty, discrimination, danger. She worked in crude laboratories, faced skepticism from the scientific community, and risked her health daily in the study of radiation. The dangers were real. The fear was valid. But instead of backing down, she let that fear drive her to deeper preparation. She double-checked everything. She refined her techniques. She became obsessed with precision. And in doing so, she became one of the greatest scientific minds in history. That's what fear can do when you use it right. It makes you sharper. It keeps you from being careless. It demands that you take your work, your goals, and your dreams seriously. Fear says, this is going to be hard, so you better be ready. And if you listen, not panic, not run, but listen, it will help you become the kind of person who can be ready. Too often, people try to fake confidence. They want to skip the preparation and still win the prize. But the truth is, real confidence comes from being prepared. When you've done the work behind the scenes, when you've studied, practiced, failed, corrected, and tried again, that's when you walk into the moment with your head high and your heart steady. Not because fear is gone, but because you're equipped to move forward with it by your side. Fear also helps you anticipate challenges. It says, have you thought about this? What if that happens? Are you sure you're ready for this part? These aren't weaknesses, they're prompts, clues, warnings. And when you use them well, you can adjust your approach, plug the holes, and show up stronger. This is true in everything: business, sports, relationships, performance. The people who thrive aren't the ones who had no fear. They're the ones who heard it, used it, and prepared so well that they couldn't be ignored. So how do you let fear shape your preparation? You listen to the nervous thoughts, but don't let them spiral. You let them drive your planning, not your panic. You get curious instead of overwhelmed. You take notes, ask questions, seek knowledge, and practice more than you think you need to. You build yourself into someone who's ready, not just to show up, but to succeed. Fear is not your enemy. It's the whisper that says, if you want this, you've got to earn it. It's the tension that pulls greatness out of you. So let it speak. Let it sharpen you. Let it mold your preparation until you are stronger, wiser, and far more capable than you were yesterday. Because when preparation meets purpose, fear has no choice but to step aside. Number 5, fear narrows your focus. When fear shows up, everything else fades into the background. The noise dies down. The distractions lose their power. Suddenly, what truly matters stands front and center. This is one of the most underestimated gifts of fear. It has the power to strip away the unnecessary and shine a spotlight on the essential. In a world full of endless options, opinions, and obligations, we often find ourselves pulled in a dozen directions. We scroll, compare, chase, and react until our attention is scattered and our energy is diluted. But fear doesn't work that way. Fear doesn't let you multitask. It grabs you by the collar and says, "Look here. This matters." This is what happened to Neil Armstrong during the Apollo 11 mission, the first manned moon landing. That mission was filled with the unknown. One wrong move could mean disaster. Fuel was low. Communications were cutting in and out. The terrain was unpredictable. And yet, in the middle of all that uncertainty and danger, Armstrong and his team didn't fall apart. They locked in. They focused. Every second, every breath, every movement was intentional. The fear was there, undeniably, but it didn't control them. It clarified them. That's what fear can do when you don't fight it. It cuts out the fluff. It makes you present. It brings your full attention to the moment in front of you. And in that moment, you have power you never knew you had. You've felt this before. The deadline is close. The performance is about to begin. The decision must be made. Your heart pounds. Your breath shortens. And suddenly you're all in. You're not thinking about what you'll eat later, who said what, or what's happening on social media. You're thinking about this, right here, right now. That's focus. And fear helped you find it. Focus is one of the most valuable assets you can develop. It's what allows you to make progress quickly. It's what helps you improve deeply. And fear used wisely is a fast track to getting there. The key is to stay with it, not run from it. To feel the discomfort, but use it as a mental anchor. Now, focus doesn't mean tension. It doesn't mean panic. True focus means intentional energy. It means channeling your thoughts, time, and actions in one direction. It means letting go of what doesn't move you forward. The mistake many people make is trying to eliminate fear entirely, thinking it's a distraction. But the opposite can be true. When fear is understood and embraced, it can become a mental filter, cutting out the noise, reducing emotional clutter, and reminding you what truly matters. So the next time you feel fear creeping in before a big moment, pause. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to highlight? Maybe it's telling you this goal is bigger than anything you've tried before. Maybe it's revealing how deeply you care. Maybe it's saying it's time to get serious. Use that. Lean into it. Let that energy bring you into the moment, sharper and more prepared than you've ever been. This doesn't just apply to crisis or high-pressure situations. You can train yourself to tap into that level of focus daily. Use small doses of intentional fear, like setting bold goals, committing to deadlines, or telling others about your plans to pull your attention where it needs to be. Create healthy pressure and let fear help sharpen your path. In the end, it's not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming focused. Fear might still be in the room, but when your eyes are locked on your purpose, when your hands are busy doing the work, fear becomes background noise, and your progress becomes unstoppable. Number 6. Fear of regret is stronger than fear of failure. Fear of failure is one of the biggest reasons people don't take action. But there's a fear even more powerful, more painful, and more lasting: regret. Regret doesn't just sting for a moment. It stays, it lingers in the background of your life as a constant whisper. What if I had tried? What could I have become? Failure is uncomfortable, yes, but it's temporary. It teaches you, shapes you, and if you're willing, it can even redirect you to something better. Regret, on the other hand, leaves you with questions that never get answered. It's the feeling of knowing you had a chance, and you didn't take it. And that's a much heavier weight to carry. This is the mindset that drove Steve Jobs. As a young man, he dropped out of college. Not because he was reckless, but because he felt pulled towards something that mattered more to him. He didn't know exactly where that road would lead, but he feared wasting his life doing something he wasn't passionate about far more than he feared going broke. That fear of living a life that didn't feel meaningful gave him the boldness to act. And because of it, he helped shape the modern world. There will always be fear attached to stepping into the unknown, but the real danger lies in staying where you are, simply because it feels safe. Safety is often just another name for settling, and settling might feel comfortable for a while, but over time it becomes a trap, a quiet kind of prison, where your dreams are still alive, but buried. And one day you'll look back and wonder why you didn't move. Here's something worth remembering. You can recover from failure, You can bounce back. You can pivot, rebuild, and try again. But you can't go back in time. You can't return to the moment you didn't act. And that's what makes regret so powerful. It's not just about what you lost. It's about who you didn't allow yourself to become. So how do you use this fear in your favor? You remember what's truly at stake. You stop thinking only about the short-term discomfort of trying and start thinking about the long-term cost of never knowing. That nervous feeling in your stomach before you speak up, before you launch, before you take that leap, that's fear reminding you this could matter. Listen to that. Ask yourself, what would I regret more, trying and falling short, or never trying at all? 9 times out of 10, the answer is clear. Even when things don't go as planned, at least you'll know, at least you'll grow, at least you'll walk away with experience, wisdom, and the kind of self-respect that only comes from being brave enough to bet on yourself. The fear of regret can be one of the greatest forces for action in your life. It creates urgency. It brings perspective. It pushes you to move now while you still can. Because life doesn't pause, time doesn't wait, and chances rarely circle back. You may not control every outcome, but you do control your effort. You control whether or not you show up for yourself. And every time you do, you take a step away from regret and a step closer to fulfillment. So if fear is standing in your way, don't just ask, what might go wrong? Ask, what will I miss if I don't move? Let that question sit with you. Let it guide you. Let it light a fire under the parts of your life that have been quiet for too long. Because in the end, it's not the chances we took that haunt us. It's the ones we never gave ourselves. Number 7, fear builds real courage. Courage is not something you're born with. It's not a trait reserved for heroes in history books or people with fearless DNA. Courage is something you build. And the raw material you build it with is fear. That's the part most people get wrong. They think courage means the absence of fear. But true courage, real, lasting, life-changing courage, only exists when fear is present. It's not brave to do something easy. It's brave to do it when it's hard. When your voice shakes, your hands tremble, your heart pounds, and you do it anyway. Fear is the starting point of courage. Without it, there's nothing to overcome, nothing to rise above, nothing to transform. Courage is the decision to take one step forward, while fear is screaming at you to stay where you are. It's the quiet power of saying, I feel this fear and I'm still going. One of the greatest examples of this kind of courage is Harriet Tubman. Born into slavery, she escaped and then risked everything to go back and help others do the same. Again and again, she returned through dangerous territory, guided by instinct and faith, not fearlessness. She didn't act because she was unafraid. She acted because she believed in something greater than her fear. And each journey, each rescue, each act of defiance against an unjust system built more courage in her than any comfort zone ever could. That's how courage grows. Step by step, action by action. Every time you do something you're afraid to do, whether it's speaking your truth, standing up for what you believe in, trying something new, or pushing through failure, you're laying another brick in your foundation of strength. Fear doesn't go away entirely. It just stops being the driver. Here's something powerful to remember. You don't have to be courageous all the time. You just need to be courageous in the moment that matters. That one moment when the door opens, when the opportunity presents itself, when the challenge rises in front of you, and if you can push through that moment, just that one, everything changes. Courage isn't loud. It doesn't always show up in grand speeches or dramatic scenes. Sometimes it's silent. It's the quiet decision to keep going when quitting would be easier. It's showing up to the hard days. It's admitting you're scared and doing the thing anyway. That's courage. And fear makes it possible. Most people spend their lives avoiding fear, thinking it's something to be eliminated. But fear is the exact ingredient that gives courage its meaning. No fear means no risk. No risk means no growth. And no growth means no transformation. So if you're feeling fear right now, good. It means there's something in front of you worth reaching for. It means you're standing at the edge of your next breakthrough. And the only thing you need in this moment is one brave step forward. That's all. Courage isn't built in theory. It's built in practice. You can't think your way into bravery. You earn it. You train for it. You become it. And the way you do that is by walking into fear. Again and again until you realize that fear is not your wall. It's your workout. It's the resistance that makes you stronger. The next time fear shows up, don't beat yourself up for feeling it. Thank it for giving you the opportunity to grow. Then breathe, center yourself, and take the step. Let it shake. Let it sweat. Let it tremble. And do it anyway, because that's how real courage is built. Number 8. Fear sparks innovation. Innovation doesn't come from comfort. It doesn't show up when everything is going perfectly or when the path is laid out clearly ahead. Innovation is born out of tension, out of the moments when something doesn't feel right, when the status quo feels too small, and when fear whispers, "This isn't working." That fear, if you listen closely, is the beginning of creativity. Most of the world's breakthroughs didn't come from people who felt safe. They came from people who felt the pressure to change, to challenge, to create something different. Because staying the same was simply too painful. That's the kind of fear that pushes the human mind beyond its limits. It doesn't come to scare you into silence. It comes to wake you up to possibility. Think about Walt Disney. Early in his career, he was fired by a newspaper editor who told him he lacked imagination. That kind of rejection cuts deep. It creates fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being left behind. But instead of folding under that pressure, Walt turned his fear into fuel. He leaned into his creative instincts. He started building worlds that no one else could see yet. He dreamed bigger, pushed harder, and took the kind of risks that would terrify most people. Today, his legacy is a global symbol of creativity, imagination, and possibility. That's what fear can do when you don't let it stop you. It becomes a spark, one that lights the fire of innovation. It forces you to ask new questions, explore new angles, and reject what no longer works. When fear tells you this might not be enough, it's not criticizing you, it's challenging you to go deeper. Innovation doesn't always mean inventing something massive or world-changing. Sometimes it's as simple as finding a better way to do what you've always done. Fear shows up when you sense that your current methods, mindset, or environment are limiting you. It says, there's something more, let's go find it. But to innovate, you have to embrace risk. And that means embracing fear, because every creative leap requires the courage to try something untested, to step into unfamiliar territory, to say, I don't know exactly how this will work, but I believe in it enough to begin. Most people don't lack ideas. They lack the bravery to pursue them. They let fear convince them that it's safer to keep doing what's already been done. But safety is the enemy of invention. When you only do what's safe, you only get what you've already had. Innovation means walking into the unknown, and fear is the sign that you're headed in the right direction. Some of the most creative minds in history have credited fear as a driving force. It wasn't the absence of fear that made them great. It was their willingness to sit with it, to explore it, and to let it guide them to something new. They didn't run from discomfort. They got curious about it. So the next time fear shows up and you feel like you're stuck, like what you're doing isn't enough, like your vision is bigger than your current tools, don't freeze. Don't shrink. Innovate. Ask, what could I do differently? What haven't I tried? What bold move am I afraid to make because it might not work? That fear isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign to stretch. It's an invitation to upgrade your ideas, your actions, and your mindset. You were born with the ability to create, and fear, though uncomfortable, is often the starting point of that creation. It opens the door to new answers, new structures, and new ways of thinking. If you trust it, if you lean into it, fear can become your most unexpected creative partner. So don't silence fear. Listen to it. Let it spark your next idea. Let it push you to reimagine, reinvent, and rise beyond the ordinary. Because fear can become the birthplace of something extraordinary when you stop avoiding it. Number 9. Fear reveals the path you're meant to walk. There's something powerful about the things we avoid, the conversations we don't have, the risks we won't take, the dreams we quietly put on the shelf. Most of the time, if we look closely, the very things we fear the most aren't random. They're specific, they're personal, and deep down they usually point towards something meaningful, something important. Fear doesn't just block the road, sometimes it is the road. We tend to run from the things that make us uncomfortable. That's natural. But discomfort is a compass. It points toward the areas of life where transformation lives. And fear, especially when it's persistent, when it keeps coming up, isn't there to torment you. It's there to guide you. Take Nelson Mandela, for example. He spent 27 years in prison for fighting against apartheid in South Africa. That kind of sentence would break most people. And surely Mandela felt fear of never seeing his family again, fear of growing old behind bars, fear that the world might forget his cause. But that fear didn't drive him away from his purpose. It solidified it. In those long, isolated years, he didn't run from who he was. He stepped into it. And when he was finally released, he walked out not just as a free man, but as a leader ready to change a nation. What Mandela understood, and what most of us eventually learn, is that fear is often an indicator of purpose. If something scares you and matters to you at the same time, that's not a coincidence. That's a sign. That fear is saying, there's something here, pay attention. Maybe it's starting something on your own. Maybe it's telling the truth about what you really want in life. Maybe it's standing up for something that matters, even if it costs you something. Maybe it's walking away from a life that's no longer aligned with who you are. These aren't small things. They shake us. They challenge everything we've been taught to play safe with, but they also lead us to who we were meant to become. The question is not whether fear will show up. It will. The real question is, will you listen to what it's trying to tell you? Most of us have a version of life we know we're supposed to live, a deeper, more aligned version. And the path to that life almost always passes through fear. You won't find clarity on the sidelines. You won't uncover your purpose by staying hidden. You find it by stepping into the places that scare you. Not because you want to be afraid, but because that's where growth is waiting. When fear shows up, instead of asking, how can I get rid of this? Start asking, what is this showing me? What am I avoiding that might be exactly where I'm meant to go? What's the story I'm telling myself that's keeping me small? And what would happen if I leaned in even just a little? The path you fear the most often holds the exact lessons, breakthroughs, and opportunities that will change your life. You just have to be willing to take the first step, even while your voice shakes, even while your knees wobble, because on the other side of that first step is freedom. You'll never eliminate fear entirely, but you can transform your relationship with it. You can choose to see it as direction, as guidance, as your inner compass pointing towards something greater than you've experienced before. And once you start following that compass, your life starts to feel aligned. Not easier, but real. Not without risk, but full of meaning. So the next time fear shows up, not in panic, but in that quiet, persistent way, lean in. Don't brush it off. Don't silence it. Listen to what it's pointing toward, because more often than not, that fear is tied to the exact path your soul was made to walk. Number 10. Fear is proof you're growing. One of the biggest misconceptions about fear is that it means you're doing something wrong, that you're off track, that you're not ready. But more often than not, fear is actually proof that you're doing something right, because fear doesn't visit the comfortable. It doesn't knock on the doors of those who are playing it safe, staying small, or repeating the same routine day after day. Fear shows up when you're growing. Growth is uncomfortable by nature. It's unfamiliar. It stretches the mind, tests the body, and challenges the heart. And anytime you're stepping into something bigger, something new, or something unknown, fear will be there. Not because you're broken, but because you're expanding. Think about Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She wasn't fearless. No one would be. She was stepping into uncharted skies, literally at a time when people still doubted what women were capable of. The technology wasn't what it is today. The risks were enormous. She faced storms, isolation, and the haunting reality that one mistake could end it all. But she flew anyway, because the fear of the flight was less than the fear of not living fully. That's what growth looks like. It's scary. It's messy. It comes with resistance. But it also comes with meaning. The fear you feel right before something big isn't trying to stop you. It's trying to remind you you're alive, you're in motion, you're evolving, and your body, your mind, your spirit, they're responding to that. The truth is, if you go too long without fear, you're probably not stretching. You might be coasting. You might be stuck in routines that no longer challenge you. And while that can feel comfortable, over time, it leads to stagnation. You weren't meant to stay the same. You were built to grow, and fear is part of that design. It's a signal that your identity is expanding, that you're about to step into a version of yourself you've never been before. And yes, that's going to come with doubts, with questions, with a voice in your head asking, what if I fail? But it also comes with the chance to discover strength you didn't know you had, confidence you haven't felt before, and purpose that makes all the discomfort worth it. So don't run from fear when it shows up during seasons of growth. Welcome it. Thank it. Let it remind you that you're no longer standing still. You're becoming, and becoming always requires letting go of something smaller, so you can step into something greater. That doesn't mean you need to leap recklessly. Growth doesn't always require giant moves. Sometimes it's the quiet kind. Saying no to something that drains you. Saying yes to something that excites you. Even if it scares you. Asking for more. Trying again. Starting over. Speaking up. Slowing down. The size of the step doesn't matter. What matters is that the step is forward. You may not feel brave. That's okay. You don't need to feel fearless to be growing. You just need to keep moving. Even when fear walks beside you, you'll know you're on the right path. Not because it's easy, but because it stretches you. And when you look back, you'll see that every time fear showed up, it was pointing to a turning point in your story. The next time you feel fear, don't ask, how do I make this go away? Ask what part of me is growing right now, and then keep going. Because the presence of fear is often the clearest sign that you're stepping into more of who you're meant to be. Growth isn't about being ready. It's about being willing to feel the fear and grow anyway. Willing to be uncomfortable so you can become unstoppable. Fear is not the enemy. It's not the monster under the bed or the force trying to destroy your future. Fear is a messenger, a mirror, a motivator. And if you followed along this far, you already know, it's also a gift. You've learned that fear isn't meant to hold you back. It's here to wake you up, push you out of your comfort zone, sharpen your focus, and remind you what really matters. Fear shows up in the presence of potential. It only knocks when something important is on the line. The people who grow, who rise, who lead, who create, who change their lives in the world, they don't wait for fear to disappear. They learn to walk with it, to listen to it, to use it. They understand that fear is proof they're alive and moving towards something that matters. You don't need to be fearless to build a better life. You just need to be willing to act with fear in the room, willing to keep moving, even when your hands are shaking and your heart is pounding. Because fear doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. Look at where fear has been showing up in your life. Not as an enemy, but as a guide. What is it pointing toward? What have you been avoiding that could be the key to your next breakthrough? What would happen if you stepped toward the fear instead of away from it? This is your moment. Not to wait, not to wish, but to walk forward. Even if it's slow, even if it's uncertain. Because every step you take with fear by your side is a step toward the person you were meant to become. So don't just feel the fear. Use it. Let it shape you, stretch you, and launch you into the next level of your life. The future doesn't belong to the fearless. It belongs to those who move forward anyway. You're ready, and fear is your proof.